Hi guys, I hope that you are having a good week and you are digging into your research. I wanted to send out a video to cover a couple of things. Number one, I have finished grading all of the literary analysis essays. And so please don't forget, you can go into the My Grades link in order to see the feedback that you have on that essay. Keep in mind that, now I can't bring it up on my screen looks different from yours, but I'll just show you for example. If you scroll down to the name of the assignment, let's just pretend it's this one, for example, and scroll over to the side, you'll see a score, and then there will be a dialog bubble. Click on that to open the view of the comment, and in the inside of that, there will be a link for your paper with margin notes and suggested changes. So if you're not seeing margin notes across the top of your screen in Word, there is a review tab. You'll click on that and click on where it says all markings, where it says tracked changes under the review tab. You want to show all markup, and then that should show you the comments that you have on the side. So let me know if you have any trouble with that. All papers have notes in the margin of them so that I give you adequate feedback. All right, I am adding something to this module, and it is basically showing you what the abbreviations in your paper mean. Now, for this first paper that you have done, I tried not to abbreviate too much, and when I did abbreviate, like for example with a CS, I put beside it that that means comma splice, and then I have why you needed to change it, either add a coordinating conjunction or replace the comma with a semicolon, that kind of thing. So you can look on that new paper to get some more feedback and some more in-depth instruction on those particular issues in your paper. On future papers, I won't go into as much detail. I'll just put CS in the margin, and then you can go back to that paper. Okay, so make sure you're looking at those, getting the instruction that you need. I will also say that some of you did not meet the minimum requirement of 3 pages for the paper. I went ahead and accepted it because we're on a short turnaround here for the research paper. And I graded it as it was. However, do keep in mind that on this research paper, I will not accept it if it doesn't meet the minimum requirements. What it's looking like is happening sometimes is that you guys are skipping right to the assignments and not reading your task list, and reading through all of the supplemental materials that are guiding you or instructing you. Keep in mind that if we were in a face-to-face class, we would be talking about all of these things in class, and I'd be showing you examples on the board. In a face-to-face class, you are responsible for getting that on your own by reading those supplements and then applying what those supplements are saying into your writing. So on the assignment sheet, for example, it says that the essay should consist of 4 to 5 pages, not including the works cited page. So you could have 4 pages plus a works cited page, or 5 pages plus a works cited page. But if you have only 3 pages and a works cited page, it isn't long enough, which means that you have not been detailed or descriptive enough, or you haven't developed your paragraphs. So I will not accept a paper like that. You'll get a 0, and that in the syllabus you can look at as an unacceptable. I unfortunately can't put a letter like a U in for a grade. It'll just record it as a 0. And then I'll send you a note about that. It does also say that you are to cite from at least 6 sources. So if you only have 5 sources or less for this paper, I will not accept your paper. You must meet the minimum requirements of the assignment. You must also use the 8th edition of MLA. Some of you, I noticed on the literary analysis paper, were using the insert citation feature in Word. Don't do that. It's not the 8th edition, and it will steer you wrong, and you will miss a bunch of points for it. So don't use the insert citation feature in Word. Now, this assignment sheet does tell you kind of an order to get started. One of the most important things that I want you to understand about this research paper is that your research argument should be based upon a sociocultural issue that you are finding in your Little Norton Reader essay that you choose. So please don't just go, oh, I have to do a research paper. I'm interested in COVID-19. That's going to be my research. There is no essay in the Little Norton Reader that is really regarding that virus, so that paper would not work for this assignment. Okay, so again, read through that assignment sheet carefully. Use it as a checklist to make sure that you are doing everything that you need to do. And notice that it says you must cite from your Little Norton Reader in your paper. So you can't just read an article in the Little Norton Reader like on school and just pick a topic that has something to do with school but nothing to do with your essay. Your research argument has to stem from that essay. And then it also says you need to have sound reasoning. You need to have logical, emotional, and ethical appeals in this paper because you are writing argument, and you should avoid fallacies. So again, if this is the requirement of the assignment, you have to read the supplemental tools in order to help you. So one of the supplements this week is the Argument and Fallacy PowerPoint. Now you do have a quiz that will be over some of the material in this PowerPoint also, so I hope that maybe you're printing that out or saving it to your computer so you can refer back to it. But for example, when that assignment sheet talks about making logical appeals, notice that this PowerPoint talks to you about what that is. A logical appeal is relying on audience's intelligence and offering credible evidence to support your argument. Now, the pieces of evidence that you're putting into your paper, those are coming from your sources. So all of this stuff that we've been talking about paragraph development and making a claim, using text evidence, and then providing your commentary still applies for the research paper. And that's why we're going right into this research paper after the literary analysis, so that you can see that the same structure that you would use for literary analysis exists here for the research paper as well. So you will state a claim, your opinion about something, and then when you are doing your research, you're going to be looking for these logical appeals in order to give some intelligent evidence to back up your opinion or your claim. And then remember, the third part is very important as well. You have to provide the commentary where you explain how that evidence supports your main idea. And you're going to do that in order to develop your paragraphs at least 3 times. Now, remember, there is a fine line between argumentation and persuasion. Now, these supplements are going to be referring to argument because anything that you write is argument, as I've said before in this class. So if you are for example, stating an opinion, you should back it up with support, and that's argument. The difference is I could be arguing just to advocate for a cause. Let's say there's something I think is really important, like ocean pollution, right? So I want you all to be more aware. I want you to know that it's a problem. I want you to know there are these possible solutions that exist. And so I'm advocating for information on this and for people to be more intelligent on this topic. However, if I'm writing to persuade, the difference in argument and persuasion is, in persuasion, I'm trying to convince you to believe me. I'm trying to convince you that my main idea of my paper or my thesis or my argument is right, is best, is what you should do, those kinds of things. So I have to have a balance of logical appeals, appeals to my head, and emotional appeals, appeals to my heart in order to be convincing. So you would be looking for facts, for example, examples of events or circumstances, previous precedent set, for example, court cases, that kind of thing, and authority in order to give that logical appeal. And then it even gives you some tips on how do I do that? How do I go about making sure my audience understands my logical appeal? There are also some logical fallacies that you need to be familiar with and aware of so that you don't use them in your paper. So look at those very carefully. And then it does the same thing for emotional and ethical appeals as well. So you've got to have a balance of that in your paper. The other thing that your assignment sheet talks about is having, and that I talked about in the task list for the 2 weeks, is that you have to have a variety of ways that you are bringing in your materials. And so there is this quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing PowerPoint that I've included for you to show you some different quotation tips and also how to weave them into your writing in a various way. So if I'm reading your research paper and just there's your sentence, there's a sentence of quote, there's your sentence, a sentence of quote throughout the whole thing, then that's really not having a variety of ways that you are bringing in and synthesizing your sources. In other words, synthesizing your sources is showing how these sources are communicating with each other or what the conversation is about your topic. So I might have a whole sentence of quote sometimes, or I might choose to have a lead-in expression. Some people call it a lead or a signal phrase that I set my quote up with. Now notice, and this was in the previous module as well on literary analysis, that my citation is part of my sentence. My sentence doesn't end until I have my citation present, and there's the period at the end. You're still going to use present tense leads just like you did in literary analysis. And keep in mind you should be frugal with quotes. You don't want to use them all the time for everything. Okay, so again, there's some information about what the difference is between commonly known facts and what I need to quote, that kind of thing. So read through this very carefully so that you get the point on quoting your materials, okay, and doing that efficiently. Notice that the supplement on in-text citations and citing, this is going to be a guide for you just on the main tools that you might use. When you are citing from the Little Norton Reader, it is a work within an anthology or textbook. So this is the format you're going to use. Notice this is last name and a page number in parentheses, no comma there, no P period, none of that, just name and number in parentheses. And if this were a part of my sentence, my period would go after that at the end, okay? So make sure you're reading your task list and following along with the suggestion there. Your assignment due this week is a note-taking assignment. Now you're going to be using Chapter 5 in the McMahon book for that. And there is a way that it tells you you can do note cards, and if that is your familiar process for taking notes for research, then you can do that. Otherwise, you could take the T-note sample where you make a T on a piece of paper and you take notes on one side and you have your commentary on the other. And I want to see that you know how to do that. So follow the instructions there and make sure you're citing your source. Now that should be done for the essay that you are choosing to focus on from the Little Norton Reader for your research paper. Okay? And there is a list of library database passwords here. And so I want to show you, if you go to academics from cali.edu and scroll down to select library services and ePortal. Now, if you are on campus, you can click right into these. That'll go right there for you. You'll need those passwords that I provided for you in order to get into these databases. Notice that these are great databases for writing persuasion, opposing viewpoints, issues and controversies, etc. You don't want to use any encyclopedias for a source in your paper, but they can be a good starting place for your research. Okay, so make sure you use the databases in order to have an adequate paper. All right, so please don't hesitate to ask questions if you have them. Good luck this week, and see you next week for another video. Bye.